This isn't our dream house, but I think I've found a way to get it. I keep finding loads of examples where people have found that their dream home was actually hiding inside their current one, and they've made it happen. For lots of us, that sounds massively expensive and probably a recipe for DIY nightmares, but I'm going to show you a system that I think can help to make it all a lot simpler and get us on the road to our dream homes way faster. Hey, Pete here from Northern Works. We really like our house, and when we moved in here during the pandemic, we came from a tiny little third floor flat, and this place felt like a mansion. And even better, the previous owners had done a really nice job of making it a nice place to be. But it's not our dream house. Our dream house is a bright, airy Scandinavian cabin perched on a rocky coastline somewhere. No, it's a cool apartment somewhere in a bustling city. Oh no, that's not it. It's a modern farmhouse surrounded by mountains. Oh, I don't know. Whenever I talk to other people about their dream houses, that's usually the kind of answer that they can give as well. Really clear descriptions of objects or places that they've either been to or seen in a magazine. But they don't ever think that they're going to actually find them. But I think I've found ours, and I think it's been hiding under whatever this wallpaper is the whole time. Lately I've been obsessed with the YouTube channel Never Too Small. I just love watching the stories of people all around the world who've taken the spaces where they live and have created beautiful homes that are designed around the lives they've chosen to live. And it makes me realise that most people around the world don't get to choose where they live. But instead of complaining about it, they've done something about it. They've made their dream home. You see, that's the secret here. You don't get your dream home, you make your dream home. And it doesn't matter what size your budget is, or even if you're renting. There's a few steps in a system that I've put together to help me make my dream home, and hopefully it'll help you make yours as well. So there's 4 parts to this system, and to help you get the most out of it, I've made a completely free worksheet that you can download from a link in the description, and that'll help you follow along. Now, most of us can't just uproot our lives and go and live in our dream house, but we can all get inspiration from the houses that we dream about. I bet you've got a really clear picture in your mind of what your dream house looks like, and that's good, because we're going to go and rob it. So first, you're going to collect all the things that you like about your dream house, and you can do that in a notebook or on a big piece of paper or a digital scrapbook. Where you do it doesn't matter, it just matters that you do it. So I've pulled in these ideas from our dream house. So we've got, open spaces with high ceilings and lots of natural materials, loads of wood, big open view if we can get it, a sociable kitchen, but still some cozy spaces to read. So what you'll end up with is something that you've probably heard called a mood board, but actually all we've got at the moment is an object board. It's just a collection of stuff at the moment on a page. And if you stop here and try and make your dream home out of just these things, then you can really quickly and easily find yourself in a trap called desire. And desire is what happens when you fixate on objects so much and you think that your life is going to be perfect if only you could have that thing. Desire can lead us to some really unhappy places, the best of which is probably a house that looks like a patchwork quilt of just random stuff. So we're going to avoid that trap with part 2. Yeah. So this part starts with asking just one question, but we're going to ask it 5 times. Why? And this is a really popular technique in lots of design fields. So for every object on your board, you're going to ask yourself, why do you want this in your house? So for example, for me, for high ceilings, why do you want this? Who are you? Doesn't matter. Answer the question. Why do you want high ceilings? Well, I want to have space. Why do you want space? Because I don't like to feel crowded in. Interesting. And why do you feel crowded in? How did I end up on this sofa? Look, this isn't therapy, so don't overthink your answers. And what you're looking for is just a list of all the emotional words that you do use in your answers. Things like, I feel. You can go now. So now what you've got is a combined view of things that you like the look of and things that you like the feel of. And so what we're going to do is we're going to apply that to our current home, and we're going to try and find spaces where we can create those feelings. Right, here's a plan of the downstairs of our house. Let's take the example of a cozy and comfy family space. I've gone through the 5 whys and worked out that what we really want is a space that helps us to feel more connected, more comfortable, to encourage more quality time together. At the moment, our main downstairs space is this long, kind of formless room with a sofa that we panic bought from the internet and is literally the most uncomfortable thing in the world, which means it feels more like a corridor than a living room, and we never spend any time down here together and everyone's just scattered around the house. So when I redesign this space, I'll think about things like kind of zone it off so it feels like a specific living room. Maybe I can add a partition with the dining room. I could add some more cozy furniture that'll encourage people to stay for a little while, and maybe I can think about how to bring some more warmth to the space. I could use colour. I could maybe put a stove in there. If we were renting, I could probably do the same stuff, but I'd do it just with furniture. So could I use a set of shelves that act as a partition? Can I put a big rug down to zone out the space? For all of this, I'll try and draw inspiration from my mood board, but I don't just want to try and recreate stuff that I've seen in a magazine. It needs to be designed intentionally for us, you know, how we want to live and how we want to feel in this space. By the way, I know that this process of designing is actually really hard, and that's why interior designers and architects exist. And the work that you do on your mood board and on capturing your 5 whys will make the results of that partnership way better. Okay, so let's fast forward a bit. I've got a bunch of ideas of how I can make our dream home, and some of them are pretty detailed, but I know there's no way we can afford to do this all in one go, and even if I do all the work myself, there's still too much to do, so well, I guess that's it. The dream home hopes are dashed before we've even started. Now, I'm obviously kidding, like that's just reality for most of us, isn't it? But if you want to finish a journey, then you've got to start it. And so we need to prioritize our plans a little bit and turn them into a roadmap. Now, roadmaps are not super detailed plans with the exact dates that things are going to happen. What they help with is understanding what's the sequence that I want to do these things in. So step 1 of our roadmap is to put things in order of priority. I use a set of just 4 boxes, and there's a template for this in the worksheet in the link in the description. So we've got these 4 boxes, and along the bottom you've got value, so that's how important is this thing to you, and then along the side you've got how costly is this thing to you, and that could be in terms of money, but it could also be in terms of time, disruption, that kind of thing. So we're going to put all of our different ideas and plans in here, and when you do, it helps to be really specific. So instead of just putting redo the kitchen, I'll put reconfigure the cabinets, add new cabinet fronts, put in new appliances, knock down this wall. Each is more or less valuable and each is more or less costly. Once that's done, you should have 4 boxes that are filled with things to do, and we can use those boxes to start to build our roadmap. So you start at the bottom right, and these are our quick wins. They are high value, but they're also low cost. So I'm going to add these at the start of the roadmap. And then you move on to high value, high cost. So we've got some money saved up to do some of these things, but we also need to plan to save for the other things. So having a sequence based on value and not just cost is really useful. Next, you can add the low value and low cost stuff. So these are obviously not a high priority, but they'd be pretty easy to do. And then the last thing to go on here are the low value, high cost items. I would honestly question whether to even bother with this stuff, but have a look at your list and see what comes up. So the next step for your roadmap is dependencies. You've got this sequence in order of value, but now we need to layer on some practicality. Let's stick with the kitchen example. A new kitchen layout is high value to us, and it's relatively low cost if we can reuse the current cabinets that we've got. But a new layout is dependent on knocking this wall through and building a new partition for a utility room. So actually, those 2 items need to move ahead in the priority, but they're high cost, and they'll definitely need to wait until we've saved up a bit more. But I see redecorating is also high value. So maybe we can do an initial super cheap redecoration while we're saving up for the full kitchen reno. And that way we've got a sequence that is actually progressing us forwards towards our dream home, but we're not, kind of having to wait years and years and years to save up. So you keep going like this, shuffling your roadmap until you've got a much clearer picture of the sequence. And you might like to group things together so it makes a bit more sense. So you could group things by room or whatnot. But be careful, because roadmaps can become really complicated really quickly. And the point is to just get a sense of direction so that you can start going towards your dream home. Because now your dream home is just a sequence of smaller steps waiting to move into part 4. Plans are great, but plans don't actually get you anywhere. Only actions do. So it's time to commit and start your journey. And I would encourage everyone not just to see this as an investment of money, but to take a look at the roadmap and think, where can I invest some of my own energy and time as well? There's a really well-documented, well-researched link between energy and effort that you put in and the value that you place on something. It's one of the reasons IKEA is so popular. We get a sense of achievement from building something, or from painting a room, or from hanging a piece of art that we've created, that then leads to more enjoyment of that thing over the long term. So that's why you feel a greater connection to the dream home you've had a hand in making, rather than just one that you've bought into fully furnished. Now I know that you'll be in a completely different place from anyone else in terms of your confidence levels about doing DIY. But I know from experience that if you can learn to paint a room, then you can learn to change the fixtures on your kitchen cabinets. And if you can learn to change the fixtures on your kitchen cabinets, you can build a coffee table. And if you can build a coffee table, you can build a partition wall. And if you can build a partition wall, then you can build a whole room. So find something that you feel confident in doing and get after it. So you probably guessed by now that I'm going to start renovating our home pretty soon. And I know it's going to take me ages, but I'm really excited about getting to do all of these jobs myself. So I'm going to start a new series called Semi-Complete, because who knows if it'll ever be finished. And that's just one of the reasons why, for a lot of people, starting a renovation can be a big, daunting, scary nightmare. But if you follow this system through, you'll probably found out by now that it's just a set of mini projects. And if the idea of starting even a mini project gives you the shivers, then the tips in this video will help make sure that your next project is a success. See you again.